Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hate VTubers. So when I thought that there was an opportunity to make a 40-minute video documenting the misdeeds of Fruit, I was pretty excited. I was like, yo, a VTuber and a woman? Are you kidding me? My two favorite groups of people? Let's go. I was pretty excited. Well, unfortunately for me, I instead have to make a video about how Asmongold and Westjett are retarded. And also most of Twitter is retarded, but I'm getting kind of ahead of myself. The subject of today's video is Apricot, more commonly known as Fruit. She's a VTuber with 400,000 followers on Twitch. She's also signed to VShojo, which is a talent agency with a bunch of other very recognizable names like Iron Mouse and Project Melody signed. Once again, I hate all these people, but it doesn't really matter. Fruit is a very controversial creator, arguably more controversial than anyone else who's signed to VShojo. And there are a lot of reasons for that, including some bad takes she's had in the past, which I can't defend all of her bad takes at all. But the biggest reason that she's in controversy right now is for cheating on her husband when he was deployed in the United States military. She disobeyed a direct order from a commanding officer, and for that reason, people are very upset, okay? Now, to understand how this rumor started in the first place, you have to understand that Fruit had a small business with her husband at one point where they would sell patches. They're obviously military themed, which is kind of connected to his job, and at the same time, this was kind of a public-facing presence that both of them had. They were both public figures to an extent. So when the cheating rumor started, people became enraged at the idea that she would cheat on her husband while he is deployed. It's an unfortunate reality for you military guys out there, I'm sorry to say. Shout out to the movie Jarhead if you want any evidence of that. That movie is real life, according to me. Well, Fruit's husband made claims on Facebook at one point that she had slept with another man while they were married. Now, she addressed this with a long post explaining the context of the relationship, describing how, while initially the relationship was very good and nice, as time passed, he started acting like an asshole. In her words, he was giving me shit for messing up on even the smallest of things, constantly telling me how much of a terrible person I was, and a lot of other things that, in her words, were emotionally abusive. Now, that is very loaded terminology, but the essence of what she's saying is that he was not very kind to her. He made her depressed. She started drinking, and eventually, this ended with her messaging another friend of hers in a manner that was inappropriate, essentially some kind of sexting, flirtatious stuff going on in the Discord DMs. I said some things to my friend that I regret, but that's all that happened. I just said stupid things. My husband was willing to forgive me. He mentioned that he himself had actually cheated on his ex-wife, the woman he married before me, but said that we all make mistakes, and now he's trying to get everyone to hate me. He is starting to play these manipulative games that he plays, the ones I've been trying to get away from this whole time. Now here, Fruit is basically accused her ex-husband of emotional abuse, but she didn't provide any proof of this claim. And as a result, a lot of people saw these posts, rumors spread that she had cheated, and they decided to condemn her right off the bat. And this rumor eventually turned into a 5 guys meme, where it was like 1 guy, 2 guy, 3 guys, 4 guys, 5 guys, very similar to the Caterino Call Me Carson drama from years ago. And this became a big contention, a big meme in the VTuber community, a big point of controversy for her, a big thing people would shit on her for, call her, you know, every name under the books, or whatever, stuff like that, all that good stuff. But Fruit recently decided to succumb to the pressure to try to justify her actions by releasing a 90-page Google document. And I feel like nobody actually read this document. I feel like not a single person who's commenting on it has read this document, because they're all saying, boo-hoo, you cheated on your husband, boo-hoo for you. But if you actually read the document, this guy is a piece of shit. Now, before I get into this, I do want to give a big disclaimer here that I don't want to go out of my way to defend everything Fruit has ever done. I don't really like Fruit that much. But my main problem is that if you actually read this document, assuming that everything in it is true, which it may not be, realistically, it's very hard to criticize Fruit for doing what she did, considering what this guy was doing. My main criticism is that everybody covering this didn't even read the document itself. So just take these allegations with a grain of salt before moving forward. Don't go out of your way to paint Fruit as necessarily an amazing good person, because she very well might not be. Fruit is able to show clear examples of her ex-husband attempting to coerce her into performing sex acts that she clearly did not want to engage in or perform with him, and he kept going despite that and trying to manipulate her. And I'm not using that terminology lightly. I don't like making like false allegations, but assuming these DMs are real in the first place, frankly, there's no context that can make them better. He is a not good guy. He's a not good guy, okay? She first writes, my ex was adamant on trying a form of sexual activity. I constantly said no. Even when he made jokes about it, I was still serious in saying no. He didn't respect my decision. When I went offline after I told him a number of times and expressed my disappointment with the statements, he painted me as the one in the wrong for not being comfortable with him pushing past my boundaries. The next day, I woke up to his messages implying he wanted to commit suicide over me exercising autonomy over my body. But this is a big claim to make, right? This is a huge claim to make, the idea that he was like, I'm gonna buy a rope if you don't let me put it in the butt, right? That's a huge claim to make. And also the claim of, you know, coercion in general is a big deal. So let's see if she can prove that. In these specific messages, she starts off by saying, I don't want to try it. He says, you're gonna try it, fight me. She says, no, I'm not, I will fight you. He says, yes, you are. Now, these DMs obviously can be written off as a joke. It's not that serious. It could be kind of a whatever thing. But as we read more, we're gonna see just how desperate he is to try to emotionally manipulate her into having this kind of sex with him. In this screenshot, he says, oh yes, so lucky. I ended up with a woman who won't try something everyone else tries. I've never f***ed a woman. And then we have a redacted word there. I don't know if that's like raw or like in the, you know, I don't know what the specific sex act he wanted to do was. We're getting a little degen here, but I don't know what it was. But essentially, there's some kind of thing that she won't do that he's very intent on getting her to do. And as a result, he starts off by saying, I ended up with a woman who won't try something everyone else does, acting as though everyone else does this thing. Therefore, he is entitled to her body. He is entitled to doing what he wants with her. She says, oh, now you're trying to guilt trip me. That's not fair. He says, yes, absolutely, straight up admitting it. And she says, I don't want to. And despite these messages where she is clearly unwilling to do this with him and has no interest in doing it, he continues again and again and again, desperately trying to convince her to do this with him, and even trying to make her feel bad for not doing it. Here she says, you're quite obviously wanting to leave me over saying no to whatever the sex act is, and yet you're still trying to turn this around. He says, but you were up for trying, now you're just flat out saying no. She says, I've always said no, but you didn't listen. He says, it's a letdown. She says, this conversation's a letdown. In our next screenshot here, she says, here's him further trying to make me feel bad for saying no, so let's see if she can substantiate that claim. He says, good, I'm glad I let you down because now I know where we stand on how far you'd go for me versus how far I would go for you. Here she says, redacted is going somewhere for you, so I'm not allowed to say what I'm uncomfortable to do. He says, you don't have to, but know that I won't die without trying it at least once. And she says, God forbid you ever try to blank me without my consent, essentially referring to the sex act. Like, you don't really have to read between the lines here. There's not like a lot of deep analysis that's needed. You can literally just read the DMs and see that he is desperately trying to convince her to do this thing with him, and she won't do it. And as a result, he's trying to make it seem like he is owed this act. He's entitled to whatever he wants to do to her. And on one hand, I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, well, why didn't she just leave? And like, obviously, while that is kind of true, you can technically leave a relationship. I mean, they were married, so it's not as simple as that. And on top of that, why couldn't he just not pressure her into having some kind of sex that she didn't want to have? Why couldn't he just not do that? Like, why couldn't he just not do that in the first place? It makes no sense. He's making it very clear to her that their relationship hangs in the balance. And if she says no, in these next messages, he says that he's going to cheat on her if she doesn't do this with him. So everybody who's mad about the fact that Fruit apparently cheated is somehow missing the point that he right here is threatening to cheat on her if she doesn't let him like put it in the butt, which is crazy, which is insane, which is absolutely insane. Here she says, so you're gonna F someone else then? He says, maybe at some point. She says, what are you trying to say? He says, maybe it'll be after you die, but it's going to happen. She responds with, you're gonna drag this out for as long as possible till you decide to leave me. And he says, I just don't see the point of a relationship that doesn't try things they're uncomfortable with. If it ain't this, it can be something else one day. Once again, he's acting as though because they're in a relationship, he is entitled to get her to do something that she's not comfortable with. Like, that's not how like consent and sex is supposed to work. Like, you know, I hate to bring this out, but the women don't owe you shit meme, like the Ethan is online thing. I mean, it is literally true. It is, you know, used by Ethan in a very cringe context, but it is true. You know, women don't owe you sex. Women don't owe you whatever kind of sex you want to have. Your partner doesn't owe you anything. He's literally telling her, look, I need to do whatever this is, okay? I need it so bad. I need it now. And if you don't give it to me, I'm gonna do it with someone else, or I'm gonna wait until you die, and then I'm gonna do it with someone else. When someone clearly expresses that they don't want to engage in a sex act with you at all, the good response is to not persist again and again and again. It's just leave it alone. If this sex act was such a big deal to him, then he should have been the one to end the relationship and find someone else, instead of trying his best to convince her over and over and over again that, like, he is entitled to this because they're married. And the conversation only gets even more nuts from here. In these next screenshots, this is what he says. I wasn't aware you were such a baby. It's a wonder we managed to have sex. She says, it's not fair. He replies by saying, considering how scared you were of nature, you're right, it isn't. Society says we're forced to stick with one woman, yet she won't support me in something she's not comfortable with. I forgot you're gonna chicken out of that too, because you love not experiencing anything for yourself. Keep in mind what he's angry about here is something that he's not getting to experience for himself that she doesn't want to do, and he feels like entitled to it. She says being scared is no joke. He says it isn't, but at some point you need to have courage. She says, when I'm ready on my terms. And here he responds with, if you're not going to die, what are you scared of? On your terms, nothing will ever happen. Like, yeah, typically people don't die from sex or sexual assault, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be scared of it. That doesn't mean they should just cave to whatever anyone else wants them to do. Like, just imagine this conversation taking place in a room where this guy's like, you're not going to die from it. What's the worst that could happen? And she's saying, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And he's like, well, come on, don't be a chicken. Don't be a prude. Don't be a pussy. Like, This guy is a freak. This guy is an absolute freak. And all you have to do to tell that is to read the actual document itself, because he is insane. Here he says, I would give you shit, but that's about it. She says, right. You wouldn't say no, eh? He says, we're not equals like I assume we were. I put my money where my mouth is. And she says, but making me feel like I have to be forced to do something I'm completely uncomfortable with and stressed out about for the sake of the relationship, that's okay to you? And apparently that was okay to him, because he continued trying to pressure her to do something she didn't want to do. Here she says, you're fucked up. True. Here he kind of mistypes, but essentially what he's trying to say is like, telling you'll leave me because you cannot provide something I want. What he's saying is, you know, you can't provide something I want, so I have to leave you otherwise. I have to get it elsewhere, so you better give it to me. She says, telling me you're going to cheat on me unless I do it? He says, that's fucked. She says, that's exactly what you just did to me. Quit pinning this around. You look like an absolute dickhole, and you do it too. And in this next message, he seemingly admits to pressuring her by referring to this as peer pressure, saying, you know what scares me? Being poor. Yet I don't mind being 2,000 in the hole because I would do it for you. And what he's referring to here is the fact that he apparently spent $2,000 to travel to see her. And because he spent that money, he feels entitled to sex with her in this specific form of sex which she doesn't want to do. Here she says, easy for you. He says, call it peer pressure, call it what you want, but you cannot provide. Here he says, you're being selfish. She says, so now you're throwing everything in here that's completely irrelevant? Here he says, because if you won't give it up, you'll leave me. She says, I'm not talking to you. I'm closing Facebook and getting on with my work, going to bed. You've upset me. In these next messages, he starts to bring up side, actually, you know, buying a rope, essentially threatening to end himself if he doesn't get what he wants. Here he says, I really may as well be dead. What a pointless existence I'll be living with you if you're afraid to go out of your comfort zone, or you'd rather see me dead or effing another woman before you do anything for me. Ever since this morning where you ultimately wanted to leave me to prove how serious you are, I've been contemplating slide again, because at the end of the day, no matter how normal my life appears to be, it will always come crashing down and burning around me. Nothing will remain of what I had hope in. Nothing I care about survives the test of time. So if I don't stick around, I won't be on this earth. Like, he's literally in these messages plainly saying, hey, look, you know, there's this sex act. I know you don't want to do it, but if you don't do it, I'm gonna end my life. So you have to do it. My life hangs in the balance of you doing this, of you opening up your butthole for me. Like, this guy is a freak. This guy is a fucking freak. All of these messages are the definition of entitlement. He feels entitled to sex from this girl in whatever way he wants because they are married and in a relationship. This continues on with him threatening to leave her if she doesn't cave to his demands. He admits to pressuring her. He says that he's going to end his life if she doesn't do it. And you can go read this whole document for yourself with the same exact sources I just saw. I'm not making any of this up. I'm not taking it out of context. You can read the full context of these messages right now on the internet, on Twitter, for free, okay? So after I read this, I was like, wow, this guy actually sucks. He was a piece of shit to her. Frankly, I don't really feel bad for him getting cheated on. Should you cheat in a relationship? No, obviously not. I don't particularly care if she does cheat on him, whatever the case is, because, like, it's just not my problem. But from these messages, I think I can 1000% justify her cheating on this guy with 5 to 1,000 guys, given the fact that he was pressuring her into sex and trying to manipulate her by threatening suicide. And when I was reading this, I was like, wow, so I guess everybody should come away with the same conclusion as me, right? But no, it seems like actually, basically nobody actually read this, or everyone who read it is fucking retarded.
And people actually, there were apparently a dozen or so people that actually read all 90 pages. And after they looked into it, they found out that, in fact, she was the one that had cheated on her husband while he was on deployment. So if you look at the engagements here, let's read some of these. And I'd be pretty mad too if my wife fucked 5 different men instead of me. She put out a twit longer begging for attention and looking for, you know, approval for cheating on her fucking husband. It's crazy. So anyway, I know how valuable time is, and I won't take up too much of yours. You should have had that at the start rather than the end.
Wow. That is some stunning research there, Asmongold, you know. Some people read the 90 pages and figured out she cheated on him while he was on deployment. Well, surely he's going to cite his sources here, right? Like, he's going to have some good justification for this. He's going to have proof that it happened on deployment. He's going to have proof of, you know, this 5 guys claim, or at the very least, he's going to, like, look into the document and, you know, try to figure out what's going on. And, like, I mean, there's this whole 90-page document that's been released. Surely, if he's reporting on this, he feels he has an obligation to delve into the drama and understand what's happening at the very least before he passes judgment.
Were apparently a dozen or so people that actually read all 90 pages.
For context, Asmongold made this clip private, probably because in hindsight he realized that he sounded like a retard.
Oh. No, apparently not. So to Asmongold, listen, I like some of your takes, okay? I don't think you're dumb all the time, but clearly this time you were. So frankly, my takeaway from this is that before you pass judgment on a situation like this and post a video to YouTube that gets millions of views, you should actually read about it. You should actually do the bare minimum fuck all research for it instead of relying on random meme tweets for research. Or if you're not going to do that, then go back to eating cockroaches or something.
He's on my belly. Look at him. He's right there. Oh, God.
But this is not the only person who has had a take like this, okay? A fellow commentary channel who I like, who I've interacted in a friendly way with, Westjett, has also been on this cockroach eating diet. And today, we get to react to this epic video, guys!
So this VTuber actually cheated on her husband while he was on military deployment, might I add, and then wrote out a 48-page paper on why he was the bad guy. I'm not making it up.
He is the bad guy. He literally is the bad guy. If you read the document, he is the bad guy. Like, unquestioningly, he is the bad guy. She is not the bad guy. Like, what do you guys think is worse? Genuine question. Cheating on someone or trying to pressure them into having sex that they don't want to have? I would say the pressuring. I don't think that's a hot take. I would say it's probably the pressuring. I would say that is undoubtedly worse. Undoubtedly worse. I feel like I'm losing my mind.
Internet's reaction was wild. Stay tuned. And you betcha, she starts off with the whole shaboing, includes mentions of domestic violence and calls it an abusive relationship. Oh, and there's actually 90 pages, including screenshots and everything, so I lied to you. Blue Mark is the guy, and low-key he was cooking. Dumbass, I don't want a useless wife. Why get married to a VTuber then, bro? I'm gonna make an assumption here that might tickle a lot of your pickles, but if you watch VTubers, you are either mentally ill, chronically online, or gooning.
True. That is true. Okay? 1 point to Westjett. True fact stated. I completely agree with that point. Now, let's see if he's able to analyze the factual basis for all of this.
Stop gooning.
Hey, there's me. There's me in the video, okay? Hey. Maybe he's going to have a good take, okay? He's taking inspiration from me personally, all right? He's going to do his proper research, all right? He's a big fan of me. He loves me. He's going to do the right thing.
What is up, Sigmas and Ligmas? Westjett 6'5", Venezuelan trillionaire here, and today we're talking about cheating drama. Oh, and literally 0% of you are subscribed, so be sure to subscribe. Yeah. Put your pitchforks away. I'm going to say something controversial. Cheating is bad. I cheated on my husband who was on military deployment. Now let me tell you how I'm actually the victim. Gets caught cheating. He was abusing me.
He literally was. He literally was. That is literally the argument. He was doing that. He was pressuring her into having sex that she didn't want to have. He was saying he would kill himself. He was saying he would kill himself if he couldn't put it in the butt. Did you people even read this? Is this just like engagement farming? Is this just clout farming? Is that it? Did any of you read this document? Westjett, did you read it?
You are what's wrong with the world. Surprisingly so, there was a lot of people actually defending her behavior too, and shocker to nobody, they were also VTubers.
Yeah, her behavior actually can be defended if you actually read the document. I'm not a VTuber, okay? I hate all VTubers. I'm defending her behavior. I'm defending it right now. I do not care that she cheated on a guy who tried to force her to have sex. Sorry.
I'm so proud of you. You're one of the strongest and kindest people I know. Oh, your husband who's there in Afghanistan fighting for the country? A loser.
He is actually a loser, though. That guy is actually a loser. That guy is like what is with this weird narrative people are going with, where like, if you've ever served in the armed forces, you're like some great person who can never be shit on ever. Like, I have respect for the military. I have friends who, you know, have served, are serving. I think it's a good thing, but like, are we acting like these people are like gods who are infallible, and it's like just because he's on deployment he hasn't done anything bad? If you just read the document, you can see what he did.
The funny thing is, he was the one who dumped her, and she's releasing this Unabomber-sized manifesto after he manipulated me into feeling I can't live without him. He broke up with me every time. Sister, you cheated on him.
Why do you just keep saying that? Are people just gonna keep saying you cheated on him? You cheated on him? Are you retarded? What is wrong with you? Do you have a Westjett? Did you read the document? Did you just skim it? This is your job. This is what you get paid to do. Like, did you not read it?
And it gets worse. She calls cheating exercising autonomy over her body.
No, she did not. No, she did fucking... Are you... Okay, I actually have to pull up the document at this point in time, okay? This is actually insane. This is actually fucking nuts. So the context of her saying that was not that cheating is her exercising autonomy over her body. The context of it is that he was trying to pressure her into having sex with him in a way that she didn't want to have it. Here she says, when I went offline after telling him a number of times and expressed my disappointment with his statements, he still painted me as the one in the wrong for not being comfortable with him pushing past my boundaries. The next day, I wake up to his messages implying he wanted to commit suicide over me exercising autonomy over my body. The verbiage is right there, and if you actually see the screenshots themselves of what he said, that is literally what he said.
You can't make it up.
You did make it up. That's literally what you did. You made it up, Westjett. You made it up. What is wrong with you?
The next day, I wake up to his messages implying he wanted to commit Sudoku over me exercising autonomy over my body. Yo, that's some destiny.
Yeah.
Okay, are we just gonna meme here? Are we gonna like substantively respond? When she says autonomy over my body, what she's talking about is that he was trying to pressure her into having sex, and she didn't want to do it. That is the definition of autonomy over your body. It's not, I wanted to cheat on him and he wouldn't let me do it. That's not even what it is. That's literally not even what it is. Like, Westjett, did you even read it?
Anyway, people made some memes. A woman after cheating, my husband was...
Wait, that's it? That's your analysis of this document? That's your... Okay, there's got to be more. Come on. I'll watch the rest of this video for charitability purposes, but... Like, do you have a brain?
Abusive, or actually I didn't want to do it. I'm sorry, uwu, it won't happen again. And you know, give it to Twitter to turn this issue of cheating, which we should all unanimously agree on, into like a full-blown gender war. It doesn't matter what gender you are. You could be an octopus, for Christ's sake. Getting cheated on sucks. It's a universal experience. Just ask my wife.
So anyway, I know
He's just gonna play the Asmongold video of Asmongold not even understanding what's going on. Is that what we're gonna do? That's what we're doing? Really? No way.
how valuable time is, and I won't take up too much of yours. You should have had that at the start rather than the end.
Love or hate Asmongold, he's cooking, because
He's cooking.
90 pages, bro, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, apparently not even you do. To do your fucking job, Westjett. It's your job to report on this stuff. Like, you have chosen this as your job of choice, and for some reason, you skipped over the part, which is right at the beginning of the document, by the way. It's not, like, buried in it. It's right there, where he is trying to convince her to have sex he doesn't want to have. Do you actually have a brain? Are you fucking retarded? Holy shit.
Were apparently a dozen or so people that actually read all 90 pages, and after they looked into it, they found out that in fact she was the one that had cheated on her husband.
Oh, and it gets worse, trust me.
And I'd be pretty mad too if my wife f***ed 5 different men instead of me.
Yeah, you heard that right. 5 guys, no burgers, no fries.
By the way, Westjett is making this claim. He probably gets mad about false allegations. There's no proof for the idea that she cheated on him with 5 different guys. There's literally none. What Westjett is doing is he read Twitter and he was just like, oh, Twitter must be right. He didn't even pay attention. Wake up. Stop hitting the fentanyl.
In Fortnite terms, she was knocked 5 times before the storm came in.
All right, I'm sorry. This video is fucking retarded. Jesus Christ. I think I've made it pretty clear now that the people who are like reporting on this didn't even read the document. It took me like probably all of 20 or 30 minutes to read through the entire thing and clearly see that he was trying to pressure her into having sex. And she didn't want to do it, and he continued doing it, and he threatened suicide over it. That is the definition of manipulation. That is the definition of being a piece of shit. Frankly, I like Westjett's videos, but I never had like a lot of respect for his research in the first place, and this only once again confirms that to me because he is literally just regurgitating what readers say on Twitter and not substantiating any claim that he makes. And Asmongold as well is just like, apparently 12 people read through it. Wow. Shouldn't you be one of those people? Shouldn't you be number 13? Isn't this your job? If you're gonna make a claim about someone, which is like potentially career ending. People are trying to like end Fruit's career over this. Shouldn't you be the one that's like looking into this shit? Like, I hate to be soy about it, but this is such a clear cut and dry example of like, I don't really feel bad for this guy getting cheated on because he tried to pressure her into having sex when she didn't want to. I don't feel bad for him at all. In fact, I wish he had done it again just for retribution because that would have been funny. Now, I think it's also worth noting here that it's kind of too early in these allegations to say if this guy is like 1000% guilty of this. I mean, ultimately, there are a lot of really damning screenshots, but you know, maybe Fruit is lying. Maybe there is some greater context here we don't understand. I think it's hard to imagine that right now, but that could be the case. But my bigger problem with this is the coverage around the situation, where it's very, very obvious to me that Asmongold and Westjett clearly did not read this document at all, and yet decided to talk about it out of their ass. At the very least, if they're going to make claims about it, I think they have an obligation to actually read the document before they publicly report on it. In the case of Westjett, to hundreds of thousands of people, and in the case of Asmongold, to literally millions of people who are frothing at the fucking mouth to see this girl go down. It could very well be the case that in the future, this guy will come out with a response. Maybe she'll be proven to have done the same exact thing to him. Maybe there will be other contexts we don't understand. That is possible. But I feel like if you're going to cover this stuff, you have to do it relatively impartially rather than just like say, oh, she cheated on him. That's it. End of story. Like, that's clearly not the end of the story here. There's a lot more here. So yeah, that's about it. Bye.